Hello everyone, welcome to a video I wanted to make some time ago, but unfortunately things happened in the UK that I had to cover as a priority first. Anyway, the YouTube channel with 1.4 million subscribers, heavy spoilers, put out a video called Starship Troopers, every clue that the bugs were innocent. And as many who have followed the channel will know, I am quite the fan of Starship Troopers to the point where I kind of unironically want it in real life. And I've made a couple of videos in the past having to reply to people pointing out that, in fact, as much as the director wants this to be a film about fascism and how it is bad and war makes fascists of us all, what's actually in the story, what's actually in the film is quite different to that take on things. And so whenever I see propaganda trying to say that the bugs didn't do nothing, I get the feeling that I just need to cover it and tell you how true or false any of this is. So, well, let's get into it.
The 1997 classic is one of my favourite sci-fi films of all time, but the more I look into it, the more I start to see.
Start to see how based it is, start to see that it's probably a better system than the one we have now, start to see how having the purpose of defending your countrymen and your fellow man is generally seen as quite a good and meaningful thing.
Now on the surface, the film features Johnny Rico leading his squad to glory against the big bad bugs.
I mean, if you want to give a one-line summary, kind of, but you're missing an awful lot of other tragedy that happens in the film.
But what if I told you the main call to arms was secretly a false flag caused by humanity?
Oh, I'd say that you completely misunderstood the film. I'd say you were quite literally looking for things that were not there. I'd say that I'd assume you're one of the type who tells other people to take media literacy very seriously and actually other people are media illiterate, while you are saying demonstrably wrong things. So, well, let's see your evidence, bucko.
Now the event I'm talking about is the destruction of Buenos Aires, which acts as a way to get people to enlist.
Oh wow, this is like the worst one for the people that talk about media literacy to actually talk about, because you know what, we'll actually get into that later. Let's hear the reasoning behind this first.
You probably think I'm mental, right? Well, let's put on our tinfoil hats, and hopefully by the end of this, I'll manage to convince you.
And hopefully by the end of this, I will show you why this is one of the most embarrassing videos ever made about Starship Troopers, beyond any other one that says the film's fascist because Paul Verhoeven said so. Anyway, the video then sets the scene of the part where Johnny Rico has just left the military and he's telling his parents that he is coming home.
But something strange then happens as the call ends.
We love you, sir.
Yes, the screen starts to get darker and obviously a meteor hits.
Moments later, we find out an asteroid's hit the planet and wiped out Johnny's home, leaving nothing but ash.
Okay, at least this video isn't appearing to go in the direction of some mental takes I've seen where they say this never actually happened, this was all purely propaganda and Buenos Aires was actually okay. Never got an answer as to what happened to his parents then, but, you know, these people are mental.
Immediately, you want to join in the fight and head out to stamp down the bugs.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
Yes, I think that is most people's natural reaction to seeing, especially their parents, die to a bug attack like this, but anyone they know died to a bug attack like this. Again, I can't remember the exact number, but it gives you a death toll of the numbers dead in Buenos Aires, and it's something in the millions. And there's no doubt it happened, so exactly how it's a false flag, I guess we'll need to find out.
We find out after that people are enlisting en masse, and in many ways it reflects real life. The official stats in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor say that 130,000 Americans joined the military within 30 days of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just human nature. In Israel, after the events of October 7th, it led to record enlistments of female fighters in the IDF and very high levels of male recruitment, an unprecedented high demand for joining the Combat Engineering Corps. The Armoured Corps also reaped the fruits of the battles that heightened motivation to serve in it to an unprecedented degree, with nearly a doubling of recruits in the latest draft. The Corps informed the IDF that it was overwhelmed with recruits and wanted to find other units to host them during basic training. In other words, yes, if your homeland gets attacked, it's typically a pretty good thing for encouraging people to sign up to the army. Hell, during World War II, Britain was never even invaded, and people were signing up anyway.
There were even rumours at the time that the president knew about it beforehand and even let it happen, as it could act as a way to get people to enlist.
I mean, if at this point we're making the Pearl Harbor comparison, you know, the Japanese still attacked Pearl Harbor and killed a load of people. Now, if it was the case that something could have been done to stop it and it wasn't, in the aim of getting more recruits, obviously that's bad on the US's part, but nowhere near as bad as, you know, doing the actual kamikaze attacks on Pearl Harbor.
Now that's a crazy conspiracy theory, yeah, but the one I've got for you today, I swear it's true.
I mean, if the point is that the Federation let the attack happen with the asteroid from bug space, yeah, that's not true, but let's see what he says first.
Now that is that the entire bug attack was orchestrated by the humans in order to get people to enlist.
Oh no, he's going one step further and saying that actually the Federation... It's such a stupid thing to say. The Federation actually attacked themselves, killing almost 9 million people, by the way. So potentially you've killed something like 6 million of your own recruits. And I mean, if they're so worried about people joining up, why not just make a draft? And you may say, well, that's because that's not the way the system works. It has to be completely voluntary. Well, then I guess their society needs to fail then. I do not believe, though, that given that we hear the oath that you have to take to join the Federation, of my own free will without promise, coercion, or inducement, after having been duly advised and warned of the meaning and consequence of this oath, do now enroll in the federal service of the Terran Federation for not less than 2 years and as much longer as may be required by the needs of the service. Now, this is about a third of the length of the one from the book, and as far as I care, and the reason they didn't add the whole thing into the film is because, you know, it went on too long. I've seen absolutely nothing in the film that indicates that they didn't say the whole of this oath, which I'm not going to go through entirely. However, it is important to point out that the line straight after the film ends is, "I swear to uphold and defend the Constitution of the Federation against all its enemies on or off Terra, to protect and defend the constitutional liberties and privileges of all its citizens and lawful residents of the Federation, its associated states and territories, to perform, on or off Terra, such duties of any lawful nature as may be assigned to me by lawful direct or delegated authority." Don't need to go through the rest of it, but you get the point. Killing your own countrymen within the Federation would be breaking this oath, which would end up with you probably being held responsible and having capital punishment be your sentence. So yeah, I do not believe a Federation that took this oath would kill nearly 9 million of its own people. I don't believe it would kill one of its own people, assuming there wasn't a good reason to do it, say they were in the middle of a crime, or, you know, if something like this happened.
I'd expect anyone in this unit to do the same for me.
This would help to secure military funding and mean the Federation stays operational.
It would secure military funding. The whole idea is that the government is run by veterans. Do you not think they will have already secured military funding? Are you kidding me?
Now, what the film does is that it paints out a society that's wholly reliant on there being an enemy.
I hear this argument all the time, and it's just nonsense. There is nothing in the film that indicates you need a perpetual state of war for it to continue. The whole point of the service for 2 years is that you can do the 2 years and you're done. If you're not in a time of war, you put your life to the army, to the Federation service, whatever you want to call it, and you are done. If it is required for longer, if you voluntarily signed up and you said, I understand that I might be needed longer than 2 years if you say in the middle of a war, then yeah, you kept on. There is nowhere in the film that it even indicates it needs a never-ending state of war. And I'm not... And even from the rest of the film, you are clearly in a never-ending state of war from the bugs. They do not have an issue on that end.
The entirety of the civilization that we see is built off the back of military rule, and whether it's in the classroom, the constant propaganda ads running, or how you get citizenship, it's all building off the back of being in the military.
Yes, and they go through the philosophical arguments of it even in the film. I could go into detail on it here, but as usual, just go to Tidge's channel and watch his Starship Troopers video. It's excellent for understanding the whole philosophy behind it. But yes, if I was to put the theory onto a postcard, effectively, the whole reason that you get full voting and political rights after you have done 2 years of service is because you have literally proven without a shadow of a doubt that you are the type of person that understands that with rights comes responsibilities. As is mentioned from absolutely everyone who understands Starship Troopers properly, literally the richest people you see in this film never served. That being Rico's mother and father, who have so much money they are able to try and bribe him out of the military.
You want to see the galaxy? How about a trip to the outer rings? Zegama Beach.
At the school, we see people protesting though, and you could argue there are certain people who don't want this to be.
Yeah, it comes up all the time in the film. It's what gets me when people say, oh, it's a military dictatorship. Who is the dictator? How is it a military dictatorship when there is plenty of evidence that people are sceptical about not only the military itself, but its own narrative that we need to kill the bugs.
Some say the bugs were provoked by the intrusion of humans into their natural habitat, that a live and let live policy is preferable to war with the bug.
Some people might even question if the war's worth it, because all we get is this desolate planet.
Yeah, you idiot, it is a defensive war. It's not an invasion. Everyone seems to forget that we are actually told how the war with the bugs actually comes about. It's all in the propaganda reels, which in my other video on this, I make the point that there is absolutely no verifiable fact in any of these propaganda reels that is actually false. They tell the truth everywhere, so I'm trusting them, obviously. Long story short on this, Mormon extremists put a colony right in the middle of a bug exclusion zone that they are told by the Terran Federation, don't go here, you'll get killed. And as you can see on screen, wow, look at them, they all get killed. It is then straight after this that the bugs attack Buenos Aires. When Johnny Rico joins the Federation service, they're not at war, which is why when people say, oh, you need a constant state of war for this society to function, there's no evidence they're at war before the bugs attack Buenos Aires. They're just in training. It's only after that that they end up going to Gláeddyv to try and destroy the bugs, because guess what? That's typically what you do when you are attacked by a hostile force. You counterattack. Honestly, people just didn't watch this film.
However, those in charge need to keep things moving, and in order to do this, we need to have an enemy.
Who was the enemy before the bugs? Who were we at war with before the bugs? You don't have an answer to this. We weren't at war before the bugs. Society there in the film was working perfectly fine. They just make things up about the film. It's amazing.
If there isn't a war, then their society could collapse, and who knows what would happen to the government.
Goes on as normal from the looks of things.
Now, from what we see, humans have stopped fighting amongst themselves, and even the criminals are executed quickly.
Yeah, it's based. It's the most based thing I've ever seen in my life.
We meet a prisoner who'd been caught for murder, and within 24 hours he was then tried and executed. This shows how unquestioned the government are, and how quickly they can push things through.
I mean, again, the government is questioned throughout the film. I've already shown some of the clips where the government's military strategy is questioned, where Buenos Aires gets absolutely nuked from orbit by a meteorite, and there are still people saying, oh, we just need to have a live and let live attitude with the bugs, which it's shown that that's impossible with the bugs. Their first reaction to people colonising their space isn't to have any sort of diplomatic solution, it's just literally to massacre them.
Again, people might start to question things like, is that trial fair? And thus they need something that puts the military at the top.
I mean, sure, it might do, and as we can see, there are clearly people that are happy to protest what the government are doing, especially with their military strategy. So again, it's not exactly the case that people have to stay quiet. It's not that people can't criticise the government. You know, there's other reasons why they're able to push these things through quickly, and it's probably because an awful lot of veterans probably are on the side of punish criminals to the fullest extent of the law as quickly as possible.
Getting us all united under their direct rule, that's something this attack does, which makes me think there's something else going on.
I mean, again, we're shown that not everyone is united. Hell, I said this in the other video, there's literally open debate about military strategy. This thing would never happen if the aim of the government was to have everyone united under some sort of dictatorial rule. It's just nonsense. They just make it up. They just hear, oh, this was supposed to be a parody of fascism from Paul Verhoeven and run with it. But it's just not the case.
Now, this is of course something that Watchmen also touched upon, with a false flag attack happening at the end of that.
I mean, I've never seen Watchmen, but yes, I understand the idea. A false flag attack certainly could unite an entire country together. We see it all the time in real life. Fine, you don't need to over-explain this. Get to your point. How was this attack a false flag operation?
Let us look at the science behind it.
Why would you do that? This is a science fiction film. You know what? Let's indulge. Go on, tell me how sending a rock across 60,000 light years of space is impossible to do in a few days. Like, I understand that's not possible. That's why we call it science fiction.
So at 2 points in the movie, we see the distance between Earth and Gláeddyv, which is shown to us in propaganda news reports.
Yep, sure. I'm happy to say that they're at different sides of the galaxy.
The first one of these happens at the beginning when we get the news report explaining the bug meteor.
I mean, I don't know if the scriptwriters are aware of this, but the start of the film is actually set after the attack on Buenos Aires. The point was to show that the bugs are attacking Earth still, and we have a defense matrix in place to stop another Buenos Aires.
I'm not somewhat of a scientist myself, but these are clearly billions or even trillions of light years away.
I mean, I don't know why he has to exaggerate, but I even remember this off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure the diameter of the Milky Way is something like 100,000 light years. I didn't even need to know this for any exam. It's just a fact I remember from physics in university. I don't know why he had to go billions to trillions. Like, even 100 light years would still make the point that the science doesn't make sense. Again, I want to emphasize this is a science fiction film.
The second report comes right after the asteroid strike, which shows a path it travelled from Gláeddyv.
Yeah, and once again, as I say in the other video, absolutely every piece of these reels that we can actually verify is verified true, so I'm trusting it.
Now, as we know, the planets in the solar system, they're constantly moving and spinning through space. Where we are now, that won't even be where we are in half a second's time, and we're constantly moving at vast speeds throughout the cosmos.
Is he seriously going to try and... Is he seriously going to try and make the argument that because everything in the galaxy is moving, that means it's impossible to predict where it's going to be?
Thus, in order for the bugs to hit us, they need to have next level math.
Yeah, they have this thing called a brain bug. Like, the whole point is that they think, oh, the bugs are just idiots and don't know anything. No, the whole point of half the film was that the bugs actually have really sophisticated tactics and are very, very well coordinated. It's probably not just instinct with how they are attacking us. You know, they calculated, as you say, a meteor strike. They probably have a hyper-intelligent being at the top of their ranks. Lo and behold, they did.
The way it's explained to us is that meteors orbit their planet, providing them with an unlimited amount of ammo.
Yeah, and it's the plasma bugs that are being ordered to fire their plasma up into the atmosphere to fire these meteors off toward Earth. I want to make this point as well here, by the way. I'm sure he's going to completely ignore this fact, but the clip I just showed you, that is from a Terran assault on Gláeddyv. We are currently being told that this is scientifically impossible because it's billions of light years away. Well, these bugs are quite clearly able to actually move from one system to another. Already they are light years away. Clearly they are able to spread at a quicker rate than a few thousand light years. But then here are the humans at a 60,000 light year distance away, managing to get there on time, and you can say, oh, well, they have faster than light travel. Yeah, sure, I'm happy to admit that. But if we're getting to that type of argument, why even bring up the distance in the first place? Clearly, there is technology for both the bugs and the humans to move quicker than light. So this was all moot.
So let me get this straight, right? They do that, and then the meteor travels across the universe and gets a bullseye on us. In order to pull this off, you'd not only have to know where you were in space, but then also know where the Earth was.
Yeah, NASA scientists, SpaceX scientists, they do it all the time. These calculations are actually relatively trivial, because the speed that objects are flying through space, because it's a near vacuum, they're actually pretty uniform. It's actually not too difficult to actually do the maths properly. The issue with getting people to space isn't the maths. Rocket science maths is actually quite simple compared to other maths that you can theoretically do. It's actually the engineering, getting everything together and hoping that it all goes off without a challenger happening, that's the issue.
You then have to work out where it would be in a trillion light years time, and also what exact angle to hit the meteor at.
I don't think they were particularly bothered about hitting Buenos Aires. I think they were just worried about hitting Earth. I think the bullseye was, did it hit Earth? Just that it happened to hit Buenos Aires, I think, is just part of the drama of the film. Because I don't know whether you know this, but a meteorite hitting the ocean, that will still do quite a large amount of damage, given tsunamis and disturbances within the spheres of Earth that will affect. How do I know this? I did geology.
This would need to be worked out so that when you hit it, it travels on a straight path directly towards us.
I mean, even on that end, I can just bring up the argument again that, well, this is science fiction. Like, yeah, bringing actual science into this is quite ludicrous, but even on a scientific basis, the aim part is completely reasonable.
You see, with that distance, that kind of distance, mate, even if you get it wrong by a degree, it's gonna miss us by trillions and trillions of miles.
Okay, I'm perfectly happy to believe that the brain bug didn't get it wrong. That's fine.
Let's pull that map back up and draw a straight line between our planets. Now let's move that line by just 1 degree so you can see how much of a difference that it makes.
You are labouring this point that I just do not care about. If humans can get into orbit around Gláeddyv with their armada, I am perfectly happy to say that the brain bugs can calculate how to get to Earth. With a meteorite, or with their egg meteorite, I don't really care. This entire false flag narrative, it's just not working with this particular point. Please try and wrap it up.
Now this is without even factoring in that all these planets and systems are constantly spinning at a rate that adds countless extra variables.
It adds literally one variable. It adds literally one variable. It's a variable that we've actually pretty much perfected on Earth right now. We've perfected it so well, in fact, that we've actually managed to perfectly slingshot multiple different aircraft onto, just past, or even with the ability to pretty accurately land on other planets. It adds literally one variable. If you know where the sun is, and you know everything about how the other planets orbit, you'll be fine. And you don't even directly need to know all this information straight off a scientist from Earth. You can work all this out via the size of the sun, the size of the planets, how far away it is from the sun, and there you go. You've pretty much got every variable you need to know where the planet is. Again, we are pretty much directly told that these brain bugs are super intelligent. Now, if we have super intelligent humans that are able to do all this right now on Earth, I completely believe a brain bug can do it.
Also, in order for the bugs to be able to pull this off, they'd have to shoot the meteor aeons and aeons and aeons ago. Love saying that.
I mean, what's your basis for that? We know that they have an exclusion zone in space, right? The size of that is probably quite a few light years, probably a few hundred. I don't know, we never particularly see a map of it. However, given that in the film, I think we see 3 separate planets where the bugs are actually located. One's Gláeddyv, their homeworld, the other's the Mormon colony, which is on an unnamed planet, I believe, in the exclusion zone. And then finally, it's called Tango Orilla, where the final scenes take place. We know that these bugs are capable of travelling quicker than light. If they are able to travel quicker than light, they can probably get other objects quicker than light. Again, you have been told these things by the film, and you are saying, yeah, but that's not realistic, is it? As if that's got anything to do with the rules that we've been told in the film.
And they'd also have to know what the mass of the rock was.
They bullseyed the Earth. I think they'll be able to work out the mass of a rock.
Also what speed to hit it at to make sure it travelled to the point we'd be at.
Talk about labouring the point. This is a species that is able to have interplanetary and even intergalactic travel. I think they can work out how hard to hit a rock.
You'd also have to be aware of how fast the planets move, and yeah, no way can the bugs do all that.
Why? Why not? They literally managed to colonise other planets. They understand the maths behind it quite clearly. What do you mean, yeah, they wouldn't be able to do it with Earth? Oh, they can do it with all these other planets that they colonise, but no, sending it to Earth? That's just ridiculous. Again, I've said this every time, people just make things up about Starship Troopers. I just don't understand it.
From what we see, they don't have any technology, and most likely wouldn't have even known we existed back when they needed to fire at the meteor.
He's screwed up the timeline! He's completely screwed up the timeline! They likely wouldn't have known we existed. No. Again, this is how the timeline goes. Mormons ignore Federation's exclusion zone warnings about the bugs and colonise some unnamed planet. Bugs then massacre them, having absolutely no contact with them whatsoever. While this is all happening, we actually go back in time and everything with Johnny happens in the film. The bugs then surprise attack Buenos Aires. They know humans exist, and they probably know where planet Earth is because the brain bug sucks the information out of the Mormons. They, for whatever reason, feel threatened by humans because obviously they've colonised in their exclusion zone, and therefore preemptively attack humans with a meteorite that kills nearly 9 million people. Again, yeah, we're aware of the bugs, and we're saying, yeah, we should probably avoid them, they're dangerous, and then we get attacked. Now, you've gone through all the science stuff of how this is impossible. Well, it's a science fiction film, so well done. I've just wasted 10 minutes of this video. Please try and give me another reason why this is a false flag other than literally not even giving us an example of a real-life false flag operation. Oh, Pearl Harbor happened. It was rumoured that the US knew about it. Okay, that's not evidence that false flag attacks have happened in Starship Troopers here.
It's also clear that the official human stance is that bugs aren't intelligent, and this is hammered home by this line.
Oh god, first off, no, there's an entire debate on that. I brought up the scene before. Secondly, even if that is the human's perspective, that the bugs are dumb, that doesn't mean the bugs aren't smart. That means they're underestimating them.
Brain bugs? Frankly, I find the idea of a bug that thinks offensive.
Are you kidding me? You've just shown me the same scene that I use to say, look, it's a debate. Shall we have a look at what that was a reply to?
Maybe there is some kind of bug that we haven't seen yet. A leadership cast, a hive brain.
I can't believe it. He's literally broken Mauler's Law. Mauler's Law, which is a video essayist, will typically try and make a point and then give you a clip that completely undermines exactly what they've just said. And what he's just done that. Yeah, the official position of humans is that bugs are dumb. This is hammered home by the fact they're having a debate on whether bugs are smart or not. Like, pardon me? To be fair, this is what idiots do quite a lot. They will listen to a debate, only really hear things from the side that they want to hear things from, and then say, yeah, it was my side that actually won the debate. Like, this entire debate is inconclusive. In fact, even in the real, this is how this part is introduced.
Federal scientists struggle to explain the intelligent military actions of the arachnids.
Literally, it's introduced as, oh, are there bugs that can think? Scientists are trying to work out whether they're intelligent, because they seem to be doing intelligent things. This entire part is saying, maybe there are actually bugs that are intelligent. That might explain why a meteorite hit us.
So clearly, humanity thinks that bugs are dumb.
Dude, at this point, I think you're dumb.
And wouldn't be capable of carrying this out.
Maybe there is.
Again, there's just too many variables, mate.
This is very much a man who watched a film who simply does not have the mental faculties to understand what he watched. Again, I can't believe this needs to be explained to the extent I'm explaining it, but yeah, we can actually work out the exact same calculations now pretty accurately.
And this is made more complex by another scene.
Oh no, he's doing it again. He's screwing up the timeline. I already explained this in advance.
That happens with the crew of the Roger Young, which we see piloted by Captain Coleman. Coleman ends up encountering the meteor that later on ends up hitting our planet.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Doesn't explain how it's a false flag operation. If this was a false flag operation, you'd think you'd warn other people to be nowhere near the vicinity or the path of where the meteorite's coming from. You know, that is how false flag operations typically work. You try not to have witnesses to this sort of thing.
The ship hits against it and barely scrapes by, but again, this is something that would make it change course.
Yeah, possibly. Maybe it was aiming for, Washington, D.C. or something like that, or whatever the capital of the Terran Federation is, and maybe it kicked it off course to Buenos Aires. I don't know. Even then, I don't buy that this knocks it off course. If you have a glancing blow on a incredibly large object like that, and you take most of the damage because you're much smaller, the course correction is not even going to be a degree off, like they were saying before. The difference in trajectory will be negligible. Maybe, as I say, it moved from one city to another, but again, this is all science fiction. If we're going that far, I am fine to say it's an oversight. And even then, we saw it didn't move it off course, so the point's moot anyway. If this was a false flag operation, then we will have seen that it will have been knocked off course anyway. Like, the point's moot here. But thank God, I thought he was going to say, why didn't the planetary defence system stop it? Because, as I said before, they only put that in after the first attack.
Going back to the idea of angles, this would have caused it to veer off course slightly, meaning that the meteor would have missed anyway.
It wouldn't necessarily have missed Earth, as I say. It might have been aiming for one city and hit another.
So technically, the Roger Young might have been what caused it to hit Earth.
I mean, that is just a wild accusation, really, isn't it? Again, even with the glancing blow thing knocking it off course slightly, the chances of it just passing through unharmed and happening to hit Buenos Aires, I find that much harder to believe than what the film tells me, frankly.
I'm not buying it though. I think it was always a false flag, and in the opening report, something else seems afoot.
Here we go. Now he's going to go on about the planetary defence system.
In it we see another rock heading towards a planet, and this is again about to hit Buenos Aires.
Is it established it's aiming for Buenos Aires? I thought it was established it was just aimed for Earth.
However, we're saved by this brand new ship, which the Federation now has for planetary defence.
Okay, this is really weird. He's actually pointing out what I pointed out before. Yeah, this planetary defence matrix was only operational after the first bug attack. Because if you get attacked by something, you typically put up countermeasures against it to, stop it happening again. So, if that's the case, do you tell me how this was a false flag?
No doubt that cost a bunch, but because of the attack, the government's obviously now funded.
Are you an idiot? Again, the government was the military was clearly funded before. Johnny Rico and all his friends joined up when there wasn't a war going on. It's moronic as well. Like, the whole point of, the military just wants money. Yeah, the accusation is that it's corrupted, it's going straight to people. If the money's going straight to the actual defence of the planet, okay, it's not corruption that caused it. It's genuinely actually trying to, protect people, which is the point of a military.
No matter what, they'll always have money for wars, and this is of course something that we've seen in real life.
Yeah, it's pretty important to keep a defence budget up. That's just reasonable. And yeah, when you're in a time of war, wow, those budgets go up. Who would have thunk? Though typically as shown to the UK to GDP debt, we can see that typically you would actually just borrow the money to fund these wars, not necessarily redirect any funds from one place to another. And yes, by the way, we end up with over 200% of our GDP in terms of government debt during the Napoleonic War and World War II.
On top of this, look at the animation that they knock out to showcase the attack.
Alright, be fair, it was 1997.
I know Kevin's spoilers, he's got a reputation for getting videos out quickly, but I don't even think we could have got this report out seconds after it happened.
Again, we're taking a science fiction film where, to be fair to you, I imagine they're using generative AI for this sort of thing at this point. Are we really taking this science fiction film and saying this has to adhere to absolutely every rule we have in real life? Because don't get me wrong, I'm the type of person that likes his film to make sense and be internally consistent, but there's nothing about getting this animation out in a snap that makes me think this was all made up and planned in advance. This story isn't set in 1997, this story isn't set in 2024, this story is set way in the future. I can't even remember the exact date, but it's like 200 years in the future. I am very happy to say that I think AI will be improved to a point where you can literally say to it, I want you to make a quick animation about how this meteorite that just killed 9 million people got here. It came from Gláeddyv, obviously, and it just makes it. I am willing to accept that we probably have that technology 200 years in the future.
It's detailed, has a mix of graphics, and lots of footage of the aftermath that would have happened just mere minutes before.
Dude, we're at a point where we are seeing live-streamed crimes. Hell, 9/11 footage came out... Breaking news of 9/11 and the footage came out mere seconds after it happened. That was in 2001. I am not going to say that, yeah, this was obviously fake because technology in this sci-fi film is better than it was in 1997. Are you crazy?
How they would have managed to get this, compile it, and put it in a report, you couldn't bloody do it, and it shows that they likely had all of this to hand.
I love it. There's absolutely nothing in the film that indicates from anyone, not even the protesters, that it was a false flag. There's nothing even close to that. And again, it's an open society. They are completely fine with people talking smack against the government and military tactics and what have you. There are people openly against this war. Not even those people were saying this was a false flag. There's not anyone saying, yeah, I'm suspicious, they had all this to hand. So it brings me to the conclusion that this technology is just normal 200 years in the future where Starship Troopers is set. Like, these are really, really, and I mean this, sub-80 IQ takes here. This is nonsense.
It's like when they have footage from another thing, like the conspiracy theories, you've seen them, and they say one tragic event is using footage from another tragic event.
I'm not even sure at this point what you're trying to say. Are you saying they used footage from other disasters to make that film there? Like, yeah, fine. They still didn't lie.
The report also makes it clear that they didn't use wormhole technology and that the asteroid travelled directly from Gláeddyv.
Oh, please don't labour that point anymore.
I've seen that often used as a reason to explain it, but yeah, I doubt the bugs have any grasp or understanding of how black holes and wormholes work, and if they'd even transport a meteor to the right place to continue its journey.
Dude, you didn't think that they could do basic maths that NASA do right now? I am not trusting you on judgments of intelligence. By the way, again, I don't care. It's never explained how humans get to Gláeddyv, which is the same distance from Earth as it is to get to Earth from Gláeddyv. How did they get there? We don't know. We just assume they have some faster than light technology. It's fine. Science fiction. Not everything needs to be explained.
Also, let's dive into the ethics of journalism to talk about what's going on.
Oh god, as long as you're not talking about it in the gaming sphere. That might make you racist or sexist or something, but my god. I said it in the other video though, just to make this point very clear from the start. The journalism in Starship Troopers is ridiculously ethical. As I say, every verifiable fact in all of the propaganda reels is just true. Verifiably true. So I'll love to see what he says here, because he's absolutely screwed up the false flag thing.
Normally when attacks happen like this in real life, we wait until there's one of two things. That is an investigation into who carried it out, which normally takes at least several hours.
Okay, oh my god. Let him finish the point.
Either that or a group claims credit for it and comes forth as the ones behind it.
Well, it's pretty obvious that the bugs aren't going to bother doing that. I think they've made it pretty obvious that it's them from the fact they didn't even try and hide the fact that it was from Gláeddyv. Again, we see them able to do massive damage to ships up in orbit with these plasma bugs. I am fine to accept that a few of them can fire at the same asteroid to turn it into a meteorite targeted for Earth.
There's no way that humanity would be able to say that this was the bugs in such a short space of time.
This guy's watching a film made in 1997 and assuming that everything you're told in the film has to adhere to 1997 rules. Again, these are all questions that you would see as fairly simple, and really the only argument you've got against this, why didn't anyone in the film say this, is because, oh, well, the government obviously censored them. But again, we don't see any of that. We see the government actually doing the opposite and protecting free speech to quite a radical degree. So you can't even make that argument.
This is literally a minute after Rico's phone call, which isn't near enough time to know if it's the case.
Well, in that case, I guess we can say we're insanely lucky that they were right. Again, we're talking about a time 200 years in the future where clearly technology has made leaps and bounds of innovation and improvement. I am perfectly happy to say that there are AIs in this world that were able to instantly say, yeah, that obviously came from Gláeddyv. Again, we've got nothing in this film to say it's a false flag, apart from you saying, but you know, it could have been a false flag.
Even if they had that assumption, you'd still want to double check, but nope, ready to blame them straight away. Now, I'm no bug sympathizer, yeah?
You're no bug sympathizer, but you're coming up with probably the worst bug apologia I have ever heard. Again, I spent a week on Twitter having a go at people for being idiots about this film, and I cannot believe that I think everything in this video has been worse than that experience. I didn't think that was possible.
But they didn't own up to it either.
No, and in fact, more bug meteors came along, so it turns out they were right.
Again, humanity also thinks the bugs are stupid, so...
Stop reiterating your wrong points, for goodness sake. I mean this, everything that has been said in this video is wrong. Everything. He has got no points correct. Also, this time around, he's not even trying to hide the fact it's a debate. Bugs that think, question mark, yeah, it's a question. They don't know. They're not, you can't say humanity is the assumption they're idiots. They're debating if they're idiots or hyper-intelligent, for God's sake.
Why would they immediately know that it was them?
There's also another point that we should probably point out here. We don't actually know if they've made attempts of these bug meteors in the past. Like, this could be the billionth attempt. You got to bear in mind that the bugs, they take up quite a large quadrant of the galaxy. We know that there is enough to have an exclusion zone. We know at this point, doesn't matter what the humans think, that the bugs are intelligent. We know that the humans know that the bugs can go from planet to planet and do have the ability to travel faster than light. It is not unreasonable to see a meteor hit your planet coming from the bug exclusion zone and say, that looked unnatural and came from the bug exclusion zone. In fact, it came from the bug's home planet. That was the bugs. Yeah, they just killed all these Mormons without no warning whatsoever. They're not exactly a diplomatic race. In fact, they're one that seems intent on war. This is quite clearly an act of war. Like, again, this isn't just humans making this decision. I'm happy to accept that this was supercomputer AI letting them know this is exactly where it came from using calculations. Honestly, it's a good thing that this guy isn't a detective.
No, I think they were in it, and they either let it happen or carried it out themselves.
Hold on. What the hell are you talking about? This whole time you're saying completely impossible for the bugs to do it. Completely impossible. They don't have the intelligence to do it. Therefore, they couldn't have done it. Oh, they couldn't possibly have made this meteorite go trillions of light years across space. It's impossible. Oh, but I think they let it happen. Obviously, he says, oh, they did it themselves. Why would you give the or? Why would you just say they did it themselves? Why would you say, oh, they probably let it happen? That's opened a whole new can of worms that you've not even touched upon. This whole video was, I don't think the bugs could have possibly done this. And in his conclusion says, yeah, they might have done it. But they let it happen. Like, excuse me? What is this video? Did you just see that Starship Troopers was being talked about around this time and want to make your video on it? This is awful.
This is all to continue the industrial military complex and gain support for spending and enlistment in the war.
To continue enlistment in the war. That's why they had to have this first preemptive strike during a time where there was no war. This guy just did not understand the film he watched. He watched the film and then made up a different movie in his head.
Telling people there's an enemy, that's one thing.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to assume that whatever the faction may be, if they nuked my countrymen, I'm gonna say they're my enemy. Yeah, I'm glad you're on the side of nearly finding that reasonable.
But showing an enemy can eradicate you, it puts the fear of God into you.
Man, it's a good thing that all the propaganda reels were telling the truth then, isn't it? You know?
The only thing to do is fight back, and humanity clearly wants Gláeddyv, which we know from the hints towards colonization.
Yeah, man, you got him. You see this planet that's, trillions of light years away, as you said. Yeah, clearly the humans just want to colonize it. Clearly that's the reason that all of this effort was put in to kill 9 million people. To colonize this planet. You see at the other side of the galaxy, well within the bug exclusion zone, after they just saw them massacre Mormon extremists. Yeah, clearly, they just want to colonize it. You got him. Wow, you must have a huge brain.
They clearly want us to agree that that's the right thing to do, and I hope this video has helped to prove it.
No, you did not prove... You didn't even prove that there was an instinct of colonization here. You didn't even prove that anyone had that idea in their head. Do you know how we say we need colonization? We have a defensive war against it. I'm sure he even said earlier in the video that there's nothing there. In fact, no, yeah, he did say it.
Some people might even question if the war's worth it, because all we get is this desolate planet.
All you get is this desolate planet. There's nothing in the film that indicates they want to colonize this planet. It's a defensive war against bug meteorites, because you can't just keep stopping these meteorites forever and hope that you manage to get 100% of them. The bugs need to be destroyed because they're trying to destroy you. They keep showing that they're trying to do that by constantly sending these meteorites at us. Goodness me. The only time you'd want to colonize a planet where there is nothing on it is if you were trying to use it as a kind of stop-off point for, transporting actual raw material from a planet that's further over in the solar system. Solar system? The galaxy. That's the only time you want to do it, because that's how empires worked in real life. You'd had all these stop-offs, Gibraltar, Cyprus, Malta in the Mediterranean for the British, and the Suez Canal, obviously, because you want the route from India to Britain to be open. Alright? That's why you do it. There's absolutely no reason to think that we have any planets, the Terran Federation, has any planets beyond the bug exclusion zone. And of all places to colonize, why their home planet? No, this is a total war, because the bugs want humans completely destroyed. And again, this is only true after the Mormon colonization and after they tried to kill the entire planet with their multiple meteorites. You didn't watch the film, I'm assuming. Anyway, he ends with an FBI open up skit, and yeah. This has to be the worst video I have seen on the whole Starship Troopers truther debate, but I indicated it before, and I actually find it quite unbelievable he didn't say this, but even though I'm not a huge fan of Death of the Author, I was sure that this would come up, and that they'd say, oh, Paul Verhoeven said it was about fascism or what have you. And so, since they all love to bring up what Paul Verhoeven said, let's see what Paul Verhoeven said about this particular topic.
Real history started with the Mormon extremists setting up a colony in a territory that they were not asked to come into, which is the Gláeddyv, let's say the Arachnid territory. And then we, and basically after they retaliate, and they retaliate by killing the Mormons, but also by sending a meteor to Buenos Aires, as we see later in the movie, then we get really pissed off and forget about all that.
So just to make that clear, there's no evidence whatsoever in the film that it was a false flag attack. There is nothing. All this is just obfuscation. It's some things like this happen in real life, and there's nothing in the film that even reflects that. But not only that, the literal director of the film, which I'm usually, Death of the Author, I'm all fine with, but even the director of the film says, yeah, obviously the bug sent it. At no point was this supposed to look like a false flag operation. If you say it's a false flag operation, you are a moron. You either didn't watch the film or don't care to. And then if you're going to make a 10-minute video like this trying to prove it, You need to do a hell of a lot better than this. There's no way you can research this topic and conclude that actually the bugs were completely innocent and the humans killed themselves to carry on the military-industrial complex. Nothing in the film to even say that. The director doesn't say it. The writers don't say it. Nothing to even support this. And yet people will still say it. So hopefully this video clears that up. Anyway, with that, that's everything I had for you today. So streams will continue as normal. Tuesdays, Tosh over on the Worcester Club will be having a Tosh Talks about whatever topic is voted on this week over on the Discord. Join down below. We will carry on with Dustborn next Wednesday. My god, that's a terrible game, but I was, literally paid to play it, so I may as well fulfill that contract. Laughing at the Guardian returns next week with whoever will come on. I imagine it's going to be a mess. And videos will come out as and when they are needed. So with that, please do subscribe, become a member, etc, etc. And until next time, well, I'll leave you with this.
Let me tell you something. I'm from Buenos Aires, and I say kill them all!
Yeah! Oh yeah! Yeah! Oh yeah!